Time for the market report. Prices closing up and an important reflection on last year.
A massive report by the USDA showing us what last year amounted to crop-wise. That and a look into Mississippi's #1 ag industry. But first, the numbers. What were the week's biggest gains and losses? And then the annual USDA report on row crop production. What did it say and what are the analysts thinking? And finally, the annual report on Mississippi's #1 ag industry is out. We reflect on how it came to be. So, markets closed on the upswing, all commodities affected. Let's take a look. The week's biggest gain, lumber up 31 bucks, nearly a 6% increase from the previous week. The week's only loss, live cattle, down nearly 2.5 cents. That's a 1% decrease from the previous week. At the start of this new year, we take stock, no pun intended, of last year's total production. At least that's what many market analysts, John Roach included, are saying. These numbers provide the baseline for this coming year's production. Here's John Roach.
The market really had to regain some lost ground. I mean, we had higher prices earlier in the winter and then slid into the lows that we saw around the first of the year, and we bounced back. With traders looking forward to Monday's report from the USDA, people decided they really didn't want to hold some of the short positions, rather take their profits and get out of the way. I think it happened in corn and soybeans as well. We saw both of those markets rally as well. And I think it's just people getting into a neutral position. It's interesting, we look at the 20-day moving average as an indicator of the trend. And all three markets, corn, wheat, and beans, closed right up or right above or just below the 20-day moving average. So prices have gone into neutral zone with everybody waiting to see what the government tells them. These will be the numbers that we use from here on forward as it pertains to last year's production. The crop we harvested in 25 will be finalized on these numbers, and it'll be double counted as we look at the stocks position. So not only will the government say, here's what we believe the production was, they will say, here's what the inventory is in the bin currently, and from that we'll extrapolate, well, a combination of what was the supply and what has been the demand. And from those numbers, we'll look forward and say, well, based on this, we expect demand to be a certain level, and we expect stocks before the next harvest to be at a certain level. So this is really sort of a super kind of a report from a standpoint of all the information that it gives us, and then what we do with it looking forward.
Taking the 2025 overview back to Mississippi, our #1 ag export for 31 years now, broiler chickens, saw production value rise more than 2%. According to MSU Extension, that makes the total value of the Mississippi poultry industry $3.73 billion. This despite ongoing threats from HPAI, or bird flu, which caused egg prices to skyrocket early last year. So, a little history here. How did poultry become the #1 ag commodity in Mississippi? Here's a special report.
You might not know it, but Mississippi is one of the largest broiler chicken producers in the country, #6 in the nation as of 2024, and one of 20 that produce 93% of the national total. In 2023, poultry and eggs generated $3.52 billion. How did that come about? What makes Mississippi so involved with chicken production? We need to go back to the last century to find out. During the early 1900s, the breed of a chicken was more important than its ability to produce eggs. Poultry judges were held in high regard, and exhibitions were commonly held with awards being given to the best of the breed, similar to dog shows today. In the 1920s, crossbreeding began so commercial poultry operations could find chickens who were the best layers. Suffice to say, the old-school breeders were not keen on this trend, and some still feel that way today. However, research has indicated that crossbreeding has helped create the commercial chicken varieties we use today. Throughout the 20s to 40s, it was common for hatcheries to be on or near main streets of towns, and chicks were sold over the counter in small batches, about 10 to 50 chicks. World War II saw the U.S. poultry industry grow. However, this didn't affect Mississippi until the late 40s and early 50s. During this period, more and more poultry companies began purchasing their own breeder flocks, hatcheries, feed mills, grow-out operations, and processing plants, becoming vertically integrated. By the mid-1950s, integrated poultry companies began contracting with farmers to produce eggs and broilers. In general, the contract required the company to provide chickens, feed, and technical knowledge. The farmer provided the land, house, equipment, and labor. The vast majority of Mississippi's broilers and eggs are still produced under this type of arrangement. The Extension Service and the Mississippi Poultry Improvement Association conducted numerous poultry barbecue demonstrations throughout the state to promote chicken consumption. Poultry companies hired men to work with the farmers with whom they had production contracts. These men were called servicemen. Mississippi State University conducted schools to teach the most current technology available. Approximately 150 to 300 poultry workers attended these two-day schools. The industry matured during the 60s and early 70s. Several companies ceased to operate efficiently and were purchased by other companies. The industry consolidated into fewer, larger companies, and that is how it is today.
And that's it for a deeper look into the markets.